G'day, Professor Joseph Drew here. I've been asked to speak to you all about how to become more productive. The person in question pointed to the fact that, last 10 years I've written 80 peer-reviewed papers. I've had 4 books published. I've got another one on the way. I'm teaching constantly, and I run a farm. You can always see the farm pictures in the background, and I've got a young family. So how do you fit all this in? How do you become more productive? I'm going to give you some tips and some tricks and teach you what works for me, and hopefully you can adapt it to work for you. So first of all, I think we need to get straight is that productivity is a virtue, and people often misapprehend what the word virtue actually means. To be virtuous, you're simply getting in the habit of doing things that are orientated to your reason. You've thought these things through, and then you get in the habit of doing it, and then you just naturally do it without thinking about it anymore. And productivity is like this. I am in the habit of turning my computer on at 6 a.m. every day, closing it at 1700 every day, having certain scheduled lunch breaks, and it just happens without me thinking about it. Now, obviously, it's difficult to establish those habits, and I've got to constantly review those habits to make sure they're working as well as possible. But I think it's a very big part of the key. So productivity is a virtue. It is a habit that you've thought through, but you can't just set it and forget it. You need to constantly be reflecting on it. Can I do better? What new thing could I do? Would that make me more productive? Did it make me more productive? And adjust your routine accordingly. And towards the end of this video, I'm going to show you some of the things I've been doing recently that have improved my productivity an awful lot. So to motivate yourself to establish this habit in the first place takes self-discipline. It takes willpower. So you've got to think through what is the most productive thing for me, and then you've got to have a reason to do it. And the reason to do it is this: if you are not in the habit of being productive, the person who loses is you, no one else. It's not about stealing time from your boss or your parents or whomever you should be working about. It's stealing time from you. You only have this one life. You've only got this one opportunity to be productive and to enhance your intellect and be all that you can be. And there's not a minute to waste. And as I get older, you can see the grey beard here, that's becoming more and more obvious to me. Indeed, Raymond Moody, the great scholar that pioneered the work on after-death experiences, has pointed out that most people who die and come back to life have a thirst for knowledge and a thirst for actually achieving something in their life. They realize that the afterlife is based on what we do in this life. And that was certainly my experience in my own NDE 14 years ago when I was run over on the highway in a motorcycle accident. And you've got to use strategy. So once you've motivated, you've realized it's all about you and being the best you that you can possibly be, you've got to think about what's going to work for you. So for instance, when do you think best? When's your best working time? For me, it's the crack of dawn. Hence I turn the computer on at 6 a.m. At 2 p.m. the old brain's getting a little bit slow. That's when I have my breakfast. I'll get to that in a minute. And that's when I leave the tasks like administration and marking and going through proofs and things like that that don't require a lot of creativity and sudden bursts of energy. That's when I leave those tasks for the afternoon when I know I'm going to be flagging. So I plan my work accordingly to when I know my brain works best. And that's in the morning, so that's when I'm doing my writing. Have targets, have goals, have to-do lists. Not just for today, not just for the week. So I have one for the day, I have one for the week, but for the year, beginning of every year, I and my children, I make them sit down and do it also, is write out my goals for the year. And at various times throughout the year, I reflect on it. But I've also got a bucket list, goals I want to achieve before I die. And if you are goal-less, you will just float around and achieve very little unless it's by luck. So make the goals, take the time, sit down and think about what you want out of this year, what you want out of this week, what you want out of this life. Something that's worked incredibly well for me is intermittent fasting, and that's a newish strategy for me. I've been doing it for a couple of years now. I don't eat from 6 p.m. to 2 p.m. I have found that I basically double the output of my writing in the morning because of intermittent fasting. I think my writing's a lot better, I'm getting accepted a lot quicker, and it's a lot more sophisticated. I just think a lot better. Now, this is nothing new, despite what you'll see on YouTube. Aristotle and Plato both did intermittent fasting. The great natural law philosopher Moses ben Maimonides did intermittent fasting, and I'm quite glad that I've taken it up to. Once again, it's really hard to start, but once you do, you just get in the habit of doing it, and I'm just in the habit of not feeling hungry until 2 p.m. And walking. Walking is so important. On the days when I can't walk because it's raining, my productivity collapses by 30%, 40%. It's so important. It's in the walking that I do my praying, I do thinking about what I'm going to achieve that day, thinking about my goals, thinking about being strategic about my goals. In fact, there was a whole school of philosophers, the Peripatetics, who considered that people did their best thinking and best reasoning when they were walking, amongst other things. So it's really important. If your body isn't fit, how on earth do you think your brain's going to be able to work at its optimal function? If it's not getting enough oxygen, if you're not feeling awake enough because you've had a good night's sleep and you're eating well and you're exercising, how is this brain supposed to work at its best? And you need to be at your best, not just today, not just for this school university work, but for your whole life. It's a lifelong journey. And use tools. To-do lists. I have a to-do list for today. I have a to-do list for this week. I have a diary for longer term goals over a month. And I make use of modern tools. I'm finally getting up with technology. So I've got an Apple Watch and an Apple phone and the Outlook, of course, and I can set little reminders on them. And my watch alarm rings and it has a label about what I'm supposed to do, and I do it. Never put off anything. Set your goals, and when it's time to do something, get stuck into it straight away. There's no harm in doing something early, as I constantly tell my teenage boys. As soon as you've got a task, as soon as you've got an assessment, get stuck into it. It's not going to matter if you're early. It is going to matter a lot if you delay, make up excuses for not doing it, and then have to do a last minute rush job, which is far from your best. Remember, it's all about you. You being the best you that you can be. And when you're rushing and when you're putting off things and when you're wasting times, you're not being the best you. Not at all. So I hope you found these tips and tricks helpful, and please get in contact with me if you want a follow-up video on any of the particular things I talked about. Now, if you haven't subscribed, please do me a favor. Please do so. Give me the thumbs up, and that allows my video to pop up more often in other people's feeds, and it helps me to help others. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.